Hello everyone, look what I got. I'm going to use this turntable the time that I'm going to build this to talk about the philosophy of model railroading. The philosophy of model railroading can be summed up in two words really. Empire builder. You start out with an oval of track and you keep adding on to it, and eventually you got a model railroad. So I almost bought the Kado turntable, but I chose this one because it's a little bit longer and I like to run big steam locomotives. This is what you get in the box. You get the instructions, and you get screws, and you get the little handle to move it. So this indexes automatically, so it's kind of neat. And there's a power kit available for this, and in keeping with the philosophy of model railroading, I'll be getting that later on. So the first part of this, I'll be just putting this on my layout just to see how it fits in room-wise. I also bought the Roundhouse. Now that's a 3-stall Roundhouse, but you can add more, and I'll be adding more later on in keeping with the philosophy. So what I'm doing now, I'm just placing down my track just to get a feel for how big this is. Now this inside curve here is 17.5 and the outside one is 19 inch. So this takes up a lot of room. Fortunately, my track plan was exactly for that. And I want to find out what is the biggest engine that will go on the turntable. So the FEF3 is definitely going to be too long for this. Although it can sit in the Roundhouse, but the doors have to be open. This here is where the wall goes. So it's going to go inside with the doors open, and it's going to stick out its nose. The GS4 is just about the same size. This is the Bachmann Heavy Mountain with a long distance tender, and that's about the biggest engine you can fit on here. And the Concord Hudson just barely makes it. And it will go nicely inside the building. Obviously anything smaller like a 462 or a 282 will fit in right in there, no problem. The Roundhouse certainly does take up a lot of room. With the turntable, to give you a baggie of screws, there's 4 screws to hold the turntable down, and there's 2 screws that go here for the leads to the turntable. Now I'm going to drill some holes to put all that through, but before I do, I'm going to make sure that I have it centered exactly where I want it. Now I took out my big ruler because I want it centered. Nowhere in the instruction does it say it has to be centered, but I just want it that way because it looks better to me. So I'm going to make some notches to indicate the center for me. So it doesn't have to be centered. It could be the end of a branch line or a corner somewhere. Now that I got it where I wanted, I'm going to make some holes for the wires that feed electricity to the turntable. Model railroading, it can get messy. I'm also going to make some holes just to guide these screws in. Here my drill bit's a little too big. I'm going to switch to something smaller. That's just to guide the screws. Now I can start screwing these in. going to need a bigger screwdriver. At this point, I'm going to paint the floor to the roundhouse, but there's a couple of dimples sticking out from under the floor. These little guys, I'm going to want to file them down before I paint. So while I'm waiting for my paint to dry, I'm going to connect my turntable to the power pack. I'm also going to talk to you some more about the philosophy of model railroading. They say, don't buy everything you see. Don't buy every type of engine for this or that period. Focus on one time period and one place. You know, don't get engines from Europe, Japan, and the US. Me, I do the absolute opposite. I pretty much only like engines. I'm not really into scenery or making buildings. So I'll focus on engines. I like engines a lot. I especially like getting an engine that doesn't work and then figuring out what's wrong with it and making it work. But that being said, they give you a lot of really good track plans. It's an old model railroader magazine, which it has like beginner plans. It had a fold-out section with some more plans. The track plans, you can make them exactly as they are, or you can use them for inspiration. There's lots of good ideas in there. But I'm just an engine guy. So the layout, the only reason where there's a layout, it's just to run engines. That's the #1 reason. The engines steal the show for me anyways. Could you, obviously the empire builder, adding something to your railroad every week or every month, it's a lot of fun, but it's expensive. Could you do a model railroad on a budget? Yes, you could. I would suggest you go with HO scale for that, and that you buy trains and engines that other people actually are throwing away. In N scale, the engines that people don't like, it's because they don't run. So if you want to have fun, you have to spend a little bit more money on stuff. This is an example of a cheap engine you can get. Now this little guy runs. I enjoy it actually. And I saw a super cool video on this the other day entitled The History of Lifelike Part 1, which I super enjoyed the video. And for that other guy, the engine doesn't run. For me, it runs just fine. Actually, I enjoyed this. I have a lot of fun with this. It's only the front wheels are driven and it's a pancake motor. It's not perfect and it's not the greatest, but it runs and I have fun with this. So I'm keeping it around. In N scale, for a cheap engine, probably what I would recommend is the Atlas GP9. Now these, they're simple, they run. The Concord PA one's great, but this one's a little simpler to work on, and pretty much guaranteed you'll have fun with this. I'm going to put it on the track while I connect the rest of my turntable. I'm going to use this engine to make sure that everything is connected and everything works. So here's what I do. I'll just put the screw in here, and then I'll tighten it up. And then I'll connect the power pack on the bottom, and we'll make sure everything's running properly before I go on to the next step. Yeah, whenever I lay track, I make sure I have an engine, one that's not too finicky, but one that's not too perfect either. So if there's any track problems, I can check it with my engine right away. And then the other side, camera so you can see better. To the other side, do the same thing, make a loop. And then put my my screw in the loop and then tighten it up. I was watching a video for beginners this week, and which scale to choose. I would say HO scale is best, but I do N scale because I don't have that much room. I don't have that much room to do stuff. Also, N scale, I found out after I started that you can make long trains. If you make a train with 50 cars in HO scale, it's ginormous. Passenger train, could you imagine an HO scale passenger train with 10 cars? Well, in N scale you can do that. You can do 25, you can do 10 passenger cars, you could do 25 freight cars, no problem. So you can make really long trains in N scale. Trains today, they're like miles and miles long. There, that's starting to look much better. Okay, I'm going to put some power on the track now. So that runs good. Excellent. Now that's what I like. Good stuff. Well, it's really starting to take shape now, so I'm getting excited. So my paint is dry. Now I'm going to put some track. These are Atlas snap track, just a straight section. While I'm doing that, I'm going to talk about the philosophy. You need to know why you're doing it. Obviously, it's nice to get something new. I do it to relax. So that's my reason why I do it. And it's something I've enjoyed for years. I started when I was a kid. So now I need to connect these to the power. So they already made holes in here. They pre-started some holes. So I'm going to need to make some holes because I'm going to use feeder wires from here. So I'm going to use feeder wires. I need to make some holes in it. Also, I'm going to make some holes because I'm going to nail the track down. And then from my feeder wires, I have to make the corresponding holes in my benchwork. Now I'm going to need some feeder wires. You can buy them ready-made for you, or you can make them yourself. So I've done that many times. You just need your wire and you can solder them together. Get the camera to refocus for you. So I've got some couple of old ones that I made before, so I'll be using them today. Now I'm going to run my wires down to it. So I've got my joiners with the electricity. So the reason why I do it my why is because it relaxes me. But I got some of my friends to watch my videos, and a lot of them said that my videos were boring. I don't take that as a bad thing because, like I said, I do it to relax. So in a way it's a good compliment because that's what I want. So I'm just going to run these wires down to the bottom, and then I'll bring the tracks in. So then once I have it all the way in, my tracks can come in, and then I can do the two others. Now I'm going to nail down my track. Whenever I do track work, I always have a hopper or a gondola with my nails in it that just follows me around, and that allows me also to test my track. Now I don't want my track to touch the turntable. I want it to be close, but I don't want it to touch it. So as I go, I make sure that I have it placed exactly where I want it. And I use a punch to make sure that I get it all the way in and it won't affect my coupler pins. Let me finish this off camera. Now everything's connected to the power pack, so I can go ahead and test it out. So that seems to work pretty well. I'm pretty satisfied with that. So all the tracks work. So that's great. I'm gonna add a few spurs to it because I'm waiting to save up to get more stalls to the engine house. So I put more holding tracks until I get the other buildings, just to fill in the area for now. So building the roundhouse will be a separate video. So that's enough for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you soon.